You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's January the 9th, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We're live here at paceradio.net and on the 420 Pace. Good morning, Glenn. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you, Al?
Not bad. How was Christmas and the New Year's?
Christmas was incredible. A little bit cold and a lot of snow just before Christmas, but it was a really good time always, every year. It'll be a much better time if it's warm, but other than that.
Hey, that's not too far away. A little sooner for you than us.
Yeah. When are you going?
I'm not getting any heat, man. I'm sitting here cold as.
Oh, I thought you meant you were going somewhere.
No, you. It's gonna get warmer for you before it gets warmer for us. Yeah. And New Year's.
New Year's was great, but I'm an old guy, so basically it was 12 to bed. You know.
Yeah.
I just stayed up awake till 12.
Might have already been in bed, but you're awake.
Yep. I'm not a drinker either, so there's no big party or anything. It's just.
Yeah, correct. You know, there's the days where we used to go to the Legions and stuff like that. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I stumbled home at 3 or 4 in the morning many times.
Same here. Not now though. All righty. Other than that, what do you say? We get started with the news?
Sounds good.
All right, here we go. First story of the day comes to us from Marijuana Moment. Headline says, new evidence shows DEA opposes marijuana rescheduling and should be removed from hearings, the cannabis group says.
Attorneys for a cannabis company and advocacy group are set to testify in the Drug Enforcement Administration's cannabis rescheduling hearing process beginning this month. New evidence has come to light revealing that the agency actually opposes the proposed rule it is supposed to defend and has engaged in improper communications with other opponents of the reform. On Tuesday, Village Farms International and Hemp for Victory laid out their claims in a motion requesting that the DEA administrative law judge overseeing the hearing reconsider their earlier request to remove the agency as a proponent of the proposed rule to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act.
Here. Part of the motion addresses a new declaration submitted to the ALJ by a DEA official last week, wherein the agency pharmacologists seemed to question the basis of the reclassification proposal by echoing anti-rescheduling talking points in attempting to show that cannabis has a high abuse potential and no currently accepted medical use. The cannabis group said in their latest motion. They what? The DEA, it says the DEA based its analysis on a legal test that was previously rejected by the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel and the agency's defiance of OLC's binding opinions in stunning proof of its open hostility to the proposed rule.
Specifically, when assessing whether cannabis has currently accepted medical value, DEA used a 5-factor review that OLC had described as impermissibly narrow, running counter to the 2-factor review standard applied by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to each conclusion to recommend rescheduling. What's more, the attorney said the timing of the DEA's declaration filing is further evidence that the DEA opposes the policy change, noting that the agency was statutorily required to submit any relevant data on the proposed rule before HHS carried out its scientific review and the rulemaking process was formally initiated.
Now it says here, by waiting until practically the eve of the hearing to submit its data, DEA has thwarted the HHS's review, sidestepped the notice and comment process, and deprived pro-rescheduling of the fair and transparent hearing that the Administrative Procedure Act and due process requires. In doing so, DEA has violated the CSA, the APA, and its own regulations.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Now, the motion that alleges that there's additional damning evidence of ex parte and undisclosed communications has emerged, with the DEA failing to disclose nearly 100 requests to participate in the upcoming hearings, as well as communication and coordination with at least one anti-rescheduling DP, the Texas Bureau of Investigation.
Wow. One of the previously undisclosed requests to participate in the hearing came from the state of Colorado, which was denied by DEA despite the state's extensive background in regulating cannabis. Yet the Attorney General of Nebraska was permitted to serve as an anti-rescheduling witness. After blocking Colorado's efforts to stand up for its regulatory system and the proposed rule in these proceedings, DEA rolled out the red carpet for the state of Nebraska, an anti-rescheduling DP that is now working hand in hand with SAM, the anti-rescheduling DP, whose president and CEO has bragged on social media about his confidential DEA sources and special insider knowledge of DEA's campaign of opposition to the proposed rule.
Wow. This new evidence confirms that the DEA has worked to stack the deck against the proposed rule by favoring anti-rescheduling parties in its selection of hearing participants and obstructing a balanced and thoughtful process based on science and evidence, what the filing says. Now, the DEA judge, John Mulrooney, rejected the cannabis group's earlier request to remove the agency as the proponent of the rescheduling rule, but he did seem to put weight into separate allegations that it engaged in unlawful communication with another DP, the prohibitionist group Smart Approaches to Marijuana, who is SAM. Now, go ahead.
Relatedly, a federal judge recently dismissed a lawsuit seeking to compel DEA to turn over its communications with the anti-cannabis organization Law 360 reported. Additionally, the new motion from Village Farms and Hemp for Victory asserts that recently published documents reveal the DEA lists another anti-drug group that's participating in the hearing, Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, as a resource for information on cannabis.
And CADCA, in turn, has announced that it has been working as DEA's partner on matters related to fentanyl. It says neither DEA nor the CADCA has disclosed this potential conflict of interest to this tribunal. At a minimum, this tribunal should postpone the upcoming hearing to allow for an investigation into the DEA's conduct, including ex parte and undisclosed communications with anti-rescheduling organizations and other entities. As part of that investigation, this tribunal should order the DEA to disclose its communications and other relevant information, allow for discovery, hold an evidentiary hearing, and make on-the-record findings. Yes.
Yep. Following such an investigation, the attorneys said further relief is warranted, urging the judge to mandate that DEA declare whether it supports or opposes the proposed transfer of cannabis to Schedule 3. Ultimately, they're renewing their call for the agency's removal from the process. As Movents have made clear, DEA's position as proponent to the proposed rule has been improper from the start, they said. To permit it to maintain that position even after filing what amounts to an open declaration of war on the proposed rule would be a mockery of the adversarial process.
Now, Sean Pennington, an attorney representing Village Farms and Hemp for Victory, said in a press release that the new evidence presented in this filing strongly suggests the DEA is using its authority in these proceedings to subvert the process and thwart the Schedule 3 proposal, which it vehemently opposes. Glenn, they're throwing out all this roadblocks, and it's not even for legalization. Could you just imagine if it was for legalization?
It's already insane.
Yeah. It goes on to say, we believe an immediate special evidentiary hearing into the nature, extent, source, and effect of all ex parte communications is essential. And until that process is unquestionably complete, there will be no way to ensure fairness and transparency, preserve any meaningful opportunity for judicial review based on the whole record, or to salvage the public legitimacy of these proceedings, he says.
I have a feeling this comes down to funding. The DEA gets a lot of funding to fight cannabis, and if it's rescheduled, some of that funding is going to disappear.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Meanwhile, the DEA recently denied a cannabis research company's request to allow it to add a young medical cannabis patient and advocates as a witness in the upcoming rescheduling hearing.
Yeah. Why would the judges do that?
It's because they don't want to reschedule this. That's
it.
And the only thing I can think, this is supposed to be a place that doesn't have a side.
It's supposed to be.
And this is obviously not the case.
No. Yeah.
Mulrooney separately said last month that the DEA made a critical blunder in its effort to issue subpoenas to force Food and Drug Administration officials to testify in rescheduling process. But he allowed the agency to fix the error and ultimately granted the request. Also, one of the nation's leading cannabis industry associations asked the judge to clarify whether it will be afforded the opportunity to cross-examine DEA during the upcoming hearings on the cannabis rescheduling proposal.
Yeah, further, a coalition of health professionals that advocates for cannabis reform recently asked the DEA judge to halt future cannabis rescheduling hearings until a federal court is able to address a series of allegations they're raising about the agency's witness selection process. It just goes on and on and on, Glenn. Like, it's just nasty. Now, it is a long story. It's one of these long stories.
Yep.
So we'll just shut this down here. But I think we got the gist of things, what's going on down there, and that is just that's brutal.
Yeah,
brutal.
And it's been this way for forever, as long as
forever. Yeah. It's just really being exposed now. More out in the mainstream than what it has been in the past.
Yep.
That's not good. Not good at all. Not good at all. All right. On to our next story. This one comes to us from StratCan. Headline there, it says, micros, again, the most popular license type in 2024.
The number of new micro cultivators and processors licensed in 2024 outpaced standard licenses by almost 2-to-1 ratio. The numbers indicate an ongoing trend also seen in the previous year, as micro licenses are generally processed faster and cost much less than a standard license. Health Canada has also proposed increasing the canopy and processing capacity of micros, although an early election could impact these changes. Yep.
Yeah, correct. All those changes will be stopped. All of them. They just die right there. Yeah. Now, as far as updates for licenses, Health Canada issued 101 new licenses in 2024. Of those, 62 were micros, 3 were nurseries, and 36 were standard cultivator and or processor and or medical sale licenses.
By all calculations, there are also notable changes on the other side of the equation. 98 licenses revoked on request, 11 suspensions, 6 of which were subsequently lifted, 15 expirations, and 8 revocations by the minister.
This brings the total to 121 licenses either revoked or expired, meaning there was a net loss of 20 licenses in 2024. Currently, there are 914 federal licenses, and according to Health Canada, only 322 of those 808 cannabis excise license holders were active and remitting excise duties to the CRA as of September 2023. Only 322 out of 8. Holy
What are their other 500 doing? That's
they're not paying out their taxes, that's for sure.
but it's very expensive to get these licenses. So what
Yeah.
happens? Why are they
Well,
not remitting taxes?
They're not getting sales, I guess. Not making the money, paying the bills, other bills instead of the tax.
In 2024, there were 11 cannabis product recalls in Canada. The majority of those were due to labeling or packaging errors, such as incorrect product information or missing required details. A smaller number involved quality assurance issues, including higher than allowable levels of microbials or missing a microbial test. One recall was issued for the presence of an unlabeled cannabinoid, hexahydrocannabinol, which is HHC.
Yeah. It's worth noting that all of these recalls were voluntary, reflecting proactive compliance by the producers. And by comparison, there were 12 cannabis product recalls in 2023. And since legalization in 2018, there have been 80 recalls in total. So there you go.
Interesting.
Some quick numbers on the micros and what's going on. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The micros are obviously smaller buildings versus the big factory style.
Yeah, these are mom and pops instead of giant institutions.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Small. Well, yeah, they're just like the places aren't even much bigger than a house, if that. Instead of
you can produce a lot in one house size.
Yeah, they do have other challenges, but yeah, it's, as people say, it's more like the old time growers when they're just in those little small companies versus.
And I'm glad to see that most of the recalls were done by the producers themselves.
That's
exactly. Pretty cool. They weren't legally told to recall this, right?
Or forced to. Yeah, exactly. All righty. Well, as we know, our prime minister's is resigning, and we also know that he legalized cannabis. So here's our next story here. This comes to us from the Fresh Toast, and this is a bit of a review on those 15 years as prime minister. He's stepping down, Trudeau, and here's a look back at Trudeau's long involvement with cannabis.
Justin Trudeau's journey with cannabis legalization in Canada is a story of personal experience, political conviction, and transformative policymaking. As the son of former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, Justin's perspective on cannabis was shaped by a family incident involving his younger brother, Michael. Mm-hmm. In 1998, Michael Trudeau was caught with cannabis during a traffic stop. Thanks to their father's connections and resources, the charges were dropped, of course. This event highlighted the inequalities in Canada's drug laws, where those with means could avoid consequences while others face criminal records. Justin Trudeau later reflected on this, stating, "That's one of the fundamental unfairnesses of this current system, is that it affects different communities in a different way." It does.
It does. Trudeau's personal history with cannabis extends beyond family experiences. In 2013, he admitted to smoking cannabis at a dinner party in his Montreal home in 2008, after he had already been elected as a member of parliament. In a sign of changing norms, the admission, while controversial, did not significantly impact his political career. As the Liberal Party leader, Trudeau campaigned on a platform of cannabis legalization during the 2015 federal election. His approach focused on regulation and harm reduction rather than economic benefits. Trudeau emphasized two main goals: minimizing underage access to cannabis and reducing criminal activity surrounding illegal marijuana trade.
After winning the election, Trudeau's government took concrete steps towards legalization. In 2016, a task force was created to explore the issue. The following year, the Cannabis Act was introduced into Parliament, allowing for the sale and possession of up to an ounce of cannabis to anyone over, and it's gone from there. Anyone over, that's all that says. In October,
18.
I'm assuming that's 18 or 19. Yeah.
18.
Okay. On October 17, 2018, Canada became the second country in the world after Uruguay to legalize recreational cannabis nationwide. This move was seen as a bold reform, distinguishing Trudeau's administration from previous governments. The legalization process wasn't without challenges. Provinces were given significant responsibility for regulating sales, leading to some friction with the federal government. Additionally, Trudeau faced criticism from both supporters and opponents of legalization.
Following legalization, Trudeau's government announced plans to create a simplified, free process for pardoning individuals with simple possession records. This move aimed to address the historical inequalities in the cannabis law enforcement. Now, Trudeau's approach to cannabis legalization reflects a combination of personal experience, pragmatic policy making, and a commitment to social justice. By moving from prohibition to regulation, Canada, under Trudeau's leadership, has embarked on a significant social and legal experiment that results in continue to unfold. And as far as that pardon thing, it wasn't just something like we see in the U.S. where it's signed off in the law. It was more of they dropped the fee to do it. People were still required to do it. The numbers are super low as far as people getting pardons because people have to go ahead and do it, and there's still costs involved in it.
I wish they would just expunge anything to do with cannabis. Done.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. At the end, it says, as Trudeau ends one chapter and starts another, he will continue to be a champion of cannabis. So there you
go. We don't know what his next chapter is yet.
Oh, no. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, one more story to go. And this one is coming to us from the Marijuana Moment. And the headline there reads, oops, did it not? Oh, there it is. Scientists explore how cannabis affects enjoyment of music through a new study at a cannabis lounge.
Not just enjoyment of music, enjoyment playing music too. I know many musicians, and almost everyone, well, I should say at least 80% of them use cannabis. Yeah. After publishing findings last year, the cannabis enhancers users' enjoyment of music, researchers in Toronto are setting out to explore in more detail exactly how cannabis affects people's musical perception and taste. They partner with a downtown consumption lounge to survey consumers in a real-world setting about specific songs selected to play in the space. Already underway, recruitment for the study is expected to last into the early months of 2025, and the team hopes to ultimately involve 1,000 participants.
Whereas the researchers' earlier study involved asking participants to reflect on their past experiences being high and listening to music, the new project gives the team an opportunity to ask consumers about their enjoyment and absorption of music while directly under the influence of cannabis. Now, according to Chai-Yon Lo, he's a research associate at Toronto Metropolitan University Science and Music. He says, now we actually have all of these individuals who are consuming cannabis, and we can actually start directly testing what's happening in this exact moment when they are high with their music engagement.
Lo and Lina Darakian, Smart Labs alumnus and current research intern, are working with nearby consumption lounge Club Lit to conduct the research. The lounge, which sits adjacent to a cannabis retailer, is affiliated with Lit Research, which holds a cannabis research license from federal regulator Health Canada. Over the coming months, we're having Club Lit's clientele, and really anyone who's interested in joining their lounge, come in and take part in the new study, Darjakian said in an interview with Marijuana Moment.
For visitors who choose to participate, QR codes posted on the lounge's tables will pull up a questionnaire asking about engagement with and enjoyment of the music, whether the experience prompted emotional responses. The team's earlier study found that users reported changes to cognitive processing, noting altered attentiveness, absorption, interpretation of the lyrics, and memory and critical analysis.
I'm glad you got that one.
Interpretation, yeah. There you go.
The researchers acknowledge that Club Lit environment is far from a sterile clinical setting. That's precisely the point, they said. Background music is going to be a common part of most social experiences, whether it's a pub or restaurant or cafe, Lowe explained. What we're really interested in pairing cannabis with these specific music experiences so we can better understand the positive and negative effects of cannabis. Now, they're talking about background music here. Why
That's
wouldn't
what
they
he
just
said.
talk like go to a club that's got a band playing and ask the people?
What would that be? Background music?
Well, no, that's a band. That's the foreground
Yeah,
music because you're actually
yeah,
there to watch the band. But whereas here, you're here to go to the club, which is playing music in the background. You
yeah,
know, it's like going to a restaurant and there's music playing in the background. It's not
yeah,
the
yeah,
same as
yeah.
going to a theater and watching an act. You know,
No, I know. It goes on to say it is possible, confound that we don't entirely know what's happening, but I would argue the opposite way. Having a sterile environment is the ultimate confound because there's really such little stimulation happening, and it's so far removed from the real world. It's strange. Playlists
Michael.
will rotate by genre, allowing researchers to test whether cannabis makes listeners like certain types of music more or less than they typically do, or whether it makes them more open or closed to genres that they may not otherwise choose.
We're trying to find a balance where we don't necessarily drive away clientele by playing, music that people may not naturally pair with their cannabis use, Darjakian said. However, we do have a range. Genres simplified for the new study include pop, rock, R&B, reggae, soul, electronic, and jazz.
One of the key findings in the Duel's past study was that the participants reported more openness to new experiences, and people have their notion of what they already like, but maybe when you're high, you're actually able to engage in new types of music as well. Lowe says that'll tell us something really interesting about some of these processes that are happening. There's a
Al,
picture of it right there.
Al Shefsky, the founder of Club Lit and neighboring Lit Research, said the lounge is designed to be a comfortable indoor space to consume. When the Smart Lab researchers get in touch about a real-world setting for their study, we were interested right from the beginning, he said. He needs a place where it is authentic experience for the consumer and for the participants in the study. Shafsky told Marijuana Moment. We were delighted, really, to collaborate with them and to kick this off and start getting the data. And, see where we can go now with this model, and that's evolved from a legal operational consumption lounge.
Now, to his knowledge, Shefsky says Club Lit is the only legally operating indoor cannabis consumption lounge in Canada. Only one. He's excited about the space serving as a lab to learn more about how cannabis affects people's musical experiences. And that's the research license that allows them to do that through Health Canada. So it's just not like someone decided to open up a lounge and everybody can go in there and do as we did the years that you and I did the tour back in 2012.
That was one of my favorite experiences.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, read a little bit more of this and we'll shut her down for break.
Anyone who's been smoking cannabis for a long time knows that musical sounds better when you're high, he said. That's not like earth-shattering to the population, but what's missing is the data. There's never been research done to actually explain or validate it. He's also pleased by the prospect that the research of Club Lit may help improve people's lives, whether that's through a greater appreciation of music or as a result of therapies unlocked through the study's finding.
Yeah. So there you go. The only legal lounge in all of Canada.
Interesting.
Doing research. Yeah.
So why is it the only legal lounge? That's what I'd like to know.
They got a research license.
Why isn't there more?
Maybe they're not really interested in issuing them. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. So,
and why do you need a research license to open a lounge anyway? Like, you should be able to open a lounge and go into a bar and have a beer.
Oh, I know. Exactly. You don't need a research license for that, do you? No. Yeah. Smoking. It's a smoking thing. No, so why don't they have cannabis lounges that don't have smoking? Why not have a place where you can go in and get a cannabis beverage or cannabis meal or edible and still do your socializing?
Yeah, and have a
They
patio.
do that
at the
with
back.
alcohol.
Yep, they do.
We have cannabis beverages on the market. Come on. All right. Time for us to medicate. We'll be right back after a break. We'll talk to you in about 3 minutes and 40 seconds. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Are you looking for non-stop, continuous cannabis and psychedelic programming? If you are, then turn your browsers to 420radio.ca or paceradio.net, where you will find the 420 Pace re-rolled Saturday. Everything gets started at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
P.A.C.E. Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have two lines of drinks. One's called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with, and then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net. Hey, you're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Education and News. Glenn, just so you know, before Christmas, Tamara and I on the Pace Radio Show, we had an interview with Tim Barnhart of Legacy 420. Got the sun going on here, right? And we talked all about the history of Legacy, as well as its upcoming sale. He's selling Legacy 420.
Yeah.
And I have taken that interview and edited it and moved things around and stuff, and I'll be releasing it. I should be releasing it later today. And for anybody who might be interested in buying a cannabis business, this will give them a good idea of what's
a successful cannabis business.
Yes, very successful. He mentions there was a time there he had 65 employees and $25 million in product going out the door.
Now, I do have a question for you. I don't know if you
Yeah.
covered this or not, but I'm very curious because this is an on-reserve dispensary.
Right.
Now, can anybody buy this?
He did mention about it being still remaining within the Indigenous community.
So any Indigenous person in Canada could possibly purchase this?
Sure. Yeah, you could buy it, right?
Well, I can't. I wish they could.
Well, you could get the funding maybe, right?
Yeah. If he wants to give me a loan, I'll take it.
Well, as he said, he's got like $100,000 just in molds for gummies.
Wow.
Yeah, so alrighty.
Yeah, a little too rich for my blood.
Yeah. On to our next story of the day. This comes from Marijuana Moment. Headline says legalizing medical marijuana leads to significant decrease in opiate companies' payments to paying doctors. The study shows.
I wonder why they're opposed to legalizing then.
Yeah.
Legalizing medical cannabis appears to significantly lessen monetary payments from opioid manufacturers to doctors who specialize in pain, according to recently published research. The authors finding evidence that this decrease is due to the medical cannabis becoming available as a substitute for prescription painkillers. And this is why some doctors are going to be opposed to this too, because they're going to lose money.
Yeah. And, hey, it's saving insurance companies money because of the fact they're not having to pay it out.
Yep. Yeah. We find MML, which is the medical marijuana legalization, leads to opioid manufacturers to decrease direct payments to physicians prescribing opioids, wrote the authors from the University of Florida, the University of Southern California, and the University of New York at Buffalo. Our analysis suggests this shift is due to increased adoption of cannabis for pain management, indicating that opioid manufacturers perceive cannabis as a superior substitute and responded by reducing these payments.
The study was published late last year in the Journal of American Statistical Association and was partially funded through a grant from the National Science Foundation. It looked at various financial incentives that opioid drug makers provide to prescribing doctors, such as consulting fees and travel to conferences, and used a novel method of analysis meant to estimate causal effects from observational data. They say our analysis finds a significant decrease in direct payments from opioid manufacturers to pain medication physicians as an effect of medical marijuana legalization's passage.
This is funny because we have the National Science Foundation, who's part of this, and they're kind of against the DEA, but they're saying there's no medical use of DEA.
DEA says that's right. I know.
But we listen to the DEA or scientists. I guess scientists are out now.
I don't know. I don't know.
This is a name, Rita Baratakar, an assistant professor of marketing at the SUNY Buffalo School of Management, co-authored the new study. Our findings indicate that medical cannabis is increasingly viewed as a substitute for opioids in chronic pain treatment, and the potential to transform pain management practices to help mitigate the opioid crisis has profoundly affected communities across the U.S. The researchers explained in a press release, the availability of new pain management options can change the financial dynamics between drug companies and healthcare providers.
The team's analysis found that decreases in direct payments from opioid makers to physicians was higher among physicians practicing in localities with higher white populations, lower affluence, and a larger proportion of working-age residents. Lower income regions tend to have higher rates of chronic pain and opioid misuse, making them key areas for potential substitution with medical cannabis, Carr says. Black patients are also less likely to be prescribed opioids for pain, and younger populations may be more open to alternative treatments, which could explain the different impacts of marijuana legalization in these communities.
What I don't understand. Why are black people less likely to be prescribed opioids? That's a
I don't know.
really
And
weird one to me.
why does the white person want the opioids?
Yeah, very strange. The study emphasizes that while its focus is the relationship between opioid manufacturers and doctors, it's crucial to consider how MML affects patient pain management, noting that annual prescription data shows a decrease in opioid prescriptions among states that legalize medical cannabis. This is one paragraph should be introduced in the case to declassify it.
Yeah, I
and
know.
that's it. The case is over, done. It's so... I almost swore there again. From 2015 to 2017, in the states not passing an MML, 30 days full of opioid versus non-opioid remain flat, the paper says. However, in the states passing an MML from 2015 to 2017, 30 days fill, as well as the number of days of prescription of opioid versus non-opioid, decreased from 1.57 to 1 ratio to 1.52 to 1 ratio. In particular, the pattern of opioid versus non-opioid prescription did not change in the control states, while there was a relative decrease in opioid prescriptions in the MML states from 2015 to 2017.
A separate research published late last year also showed a decline in fatal opioid overdoses in jurisdictions where cannabis was legalized for adults. Hey,
there's another sentence right there. Put that in there.
Exactly. That study found a consistent negative relationship between legalization and fatal overdoses, with more significant effects in states that legalized cannabis earlier in the opioid crisis. Authors estimated that the recreational cannabis legalization is associated with a decrease of approximately 3.5 deaths per 100,000 individuals.
Wow.
Another line.
It astounds me that they're even in a court fighting against. I don't understand it. You can save 3.5 deaths per 100,000 individuals. Do it.
Do it, and that may increase when you add more people in there.
I think it will, because as it gets more accepted, then more people will use it and more people will benefit from it.
Yeah, let's close out with this last paragraph on this story. And this is why cannabis should be legal federally. And it says, our findings suggest that broadening recreational cannabis access could help address the opioid epidemic. Previous research largely indicates that cannabis, primarily for medical use, can reduce opioid prescriptions, and we find it may also successfully reduce overdose deaths.
So let's not legalize it. Let's not decriminalize it. Let's.
Yeah, there might be an answer there for that, but we can't do that.
I think the answer is money, drug companies, and money for cannabis wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just freaking. There's an answer right there. It's growing in front of us.
Yeah, and these are things that these scientists should have been talking out decades ago.
Yeah,
they were kind of forced to stay quiet, and it's ridiculous. Killing people, literally. We just read they're killing 3.5 more people per 100,000 by doing it the way they're doing it now.
Yeah, and of course, people who wrote that report won't be invited to the rescheduling. No. All right, on our next story. This one here, it comes from the BBC. It says dogs suffer cannabis poisoning after illegal rave. Was this for scooping up roaches? That's the first thing that came to my mind.
We're going to find out.
All right.
2 dogs became very unwell and could not stand up after being poisoned by cannabis following a rave, the owners have said. I don't know about the word poisoned. It's kind of a weird word to use in this case. Human feces were left behind by some of the 500 people who attended the illegal party at Rowbarrow Warren in Somerset on the 27th of December.
Jen, who did not want her last name used, took her dogs Margaret and Willow on a walk in the Wiscombe Nature Reserve, where it is believed to have ate the human waste. What?
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to even.
Their pupils were dilated. They couldn't walk. They couldn't stand up. It became apparent that there were quite a lot of human feces in the woods, which we assumed to be after the free party that had taken place the day before. What's your dog's doing eating shit?
Or, well, I have one of those dogs that does that too. but there is absolutely no proof that this is what happened here. Like you said, it could have been they ate roaches. They could have been ate anything else. Could have ate a mushroom for all we know.
Yeah. All right, continue on.
Okay. They were really unresponsive, so they had to keep them overnight, she added. The couple paid $1,600 in vet bills after the dogs needed IV fluids, charcoal, and an overnight stay.
Jen's husband, Stuart, said apparently 60% of cannabis remains in feces, and she, the vet, said she had seen other dogs with similar symptoms, so it could possibly be it. Obviously, without a blood test, they wouldn't know of for certain, but that was her conclusion.
According
dogs
to
do eat shit, I know that, but
according to Avon and Somerset Police, about 500 people gathered for an illegal rave at Rowbarrow Warren in the early hours of 27th of December. Police had to close off roads and damage was caused to fences nearby.
Now, Rosemary Reeks from the nearby farm says somebody came up here and drove straight through here because of the fog, the mess that they leave behind them, and the fact they're interrupting our sleep, and we had flashing lights all night because of the police. They didn't turn off the lights.
After sharing her concerns on social media, Jen said lots of people replied saying the same thing happened to their dogs in other places. The couple hopes their story will make those who go to illegal raves think twice about how they treat the environment around them. But illegal raves aren't really known for cannabis use.
No, I know, exactly.
I'm not saying it doesn't get used there, but that's not what they're known for.
No.
So this could be a tablet. It could be anything. Like they're making a story up here that nobody knows if it's true. It's weird.
Well, they say here that Nicole Robinson, a vet and head of service, says cannabis is not all absorbed. It doesn't all go into the bloodstream. About 20% or less than 20% in many cases, depending on the form of cannabis, gets absorbed. Therefore, a lot of it gets passed on into the feces completely unchanged.
So when a dog eats human feces, they would end up eating cannabis as it would be when the person ate it. In the case reported to the VPIS, dogs are commonly exposed following ingestion or accidental inhalation of smoke.
Yeah. There you go. So there you go. Don't throw roaches on the ground to save your dogs, and don't shit in the woods.
Don't shit in the woods. What if you have to? I mean, you have to.
This is a public service announcement.
We do our best.
Yeah. Well, from that story, we're going to move on to one that's coming to us from the International Cannabis Business Institute. Headline there says, "Is medical cannabis for animals the next big thing?"
When most people
in the woods to.
I like how we back-ended those stories, though. At least.
Yeah.
When most people think of medical cannabis, they think of how it pertains to suffering human patients, and rightfully so. Medical cannabis has helped countless human patients, but it has no medical use. Weird.
Yeah.
Countless human patients as a growing body of scientific research and patient testimonials demonstrates. However, the benefits of medical cannabis are not limited only to humans. Many household pets and livestock can also benefit from the wellness properties contained within the cannabis plant, and medical products derived from it.
More governments around the world are recognizing this fact and modernizing their cannabis policies and regulations to reflect it. For example, back in 2019, Malta's Ministry of Economy announced plans to permit the production of medical cannabis for veterinarian use. Late last year, Brazil's National Health Surveillance Agency decided to amend ordinance, big numbers, to allow the regulation of medical cannabis products for animals by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock. Other examples of similar policy modernization can be found elsewhere around the globe.
And medical cannabis for animals is an underrated sector of the emerging legal cannabis industry, and possesses tremendous profit potential for innovative entrepreneurs and savvy cannabis industry investors. Industry analysis, research, and markets recently projected that the CBD pet market size alone is expected to reach 1.72 billion by 2030, and increase to a compound annual growth rate of 32.4% between now and then. This, of course, does not take into account other cannabinoids and not pet animal like livestock. Yep.
Researchers estimate that there are over 900 million pet dogs globally and another 370 million pet cats. In the United States alone, pet owners spend an estimated $136 billion on pet products annually. Add to that mix tens of millions of cattle, sheep, goats, chickens, pigs, and other livestock around the world. And the potential market for medical cannabis wellness products for animals is off the charts. The medical cannabis for animals sector is very young and has hurdles to overcome, to be sure, but or not the least of which is the need for more research determining which cannabinoids and in which specific doses for each animal type and size is no small feat.
Yep. And I have used cannabis for a dog years ago with what did she have? I can't remember the name, but it worked wonders. In very, very, very tiny doses. Absolute wonders for the dog. The dog couldn't go upstairs. The dog would run upstairs. And I'm talking like a rice size a dose of cannabis oil, right?
Right. Yeah.
Amazing.
What? I remember Cindy was making the dog treats.
Yeah, and it does work. I would tell everybody it does work. And that's not even like the U.S. is always saying, oh, that's just a stoner talking. He wants to get stoned. This is a dog, and you could see the results almost like within a half an hour. You could see the difference in the dog, the comfort level, the way they walk, the way that my dog walked, and everything. It was amazing.
Amazing, eh? And it's good when you can see the benefits before your eyes. Like,
no doubt about it. Like I said, she could walk upstairs, but she could never make it up the stairs without cannabis.
Yeah.
And it's such a minute amount, like such a tiny bit, and it just changed her life.
Yeah. You know, we've got some Ollie Dog cannabis oil for pets sitting in the fridge right now. So.
Have you used it?
Yeah, we've used it. We're using it on our cat. He doesn't
Nice.
need it anymore, but we still have it there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Using it for the cat.
With that being said, individuals and entities who can figure it out safely and reliably are sure to reap considerable financial rewards in the future. Medical cannabis for animals is virtually guaranteed to be the next big thing. It is not a question of if, but rather a question of when. And that
when. And look, they listed off all the farm animals, everything that we could have access, because they've all got endocannabinoid systems.
Yep.
Right. So
it's about time.
All right. Yeah. All right. Talking about time, we better get on to our last story of the day. And this one comes to us from I've never heard of it, but it says weed sick. High potency cannabis leads to ER visits. Illnesses for some users. Yeah, there are people who shouldn't have cannabis. There's no doubt about that.
Don Danielson of Cedro Woolley is the kind of person who would rather point to the evidence than state his opinion. When he wants to explain how popular his 27-year-old son Brandon was when he died, he describes the turmoil at his son's funeral in 2019. Hundreds of people packed the church. It was standing room only. Old people, young people, people from other countries who Brandon had met.
He was very outgoing, they say. He had tons of friends. He married his high school sweetheart. They were literally months away from going on their honeymoon when they waited for when they waited for when he passed. They were looking to buy their first house.
And according to his death certificate, Brandon Danielson died of cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, or CHS, a condition that results from daily use of cannabis, especially high THC concentrates, as cannabis products like vapes, shatter, and dabs have reached near 100% potency. Doctors across Washington state are seeing an increase in cannabis-related disorders, including CHS.
Like many people who develop CHS, Brandon Danielson was initially misdiagnosed. Doctors thought he had cyclo-vomiting syndrome, a condition with similar symptoms: extreme abdominal pain, severe bouts of vomiting, and nausea. It is so new, we didn't even know what CHS was. He smoked a lot of weed, but it was the concentrates. It's the concentrates.
In September, Brandon Danielson was getting ready to go to work when he had a seizure. He was so severely dehydrated from vomiting that his organs shut down. His wife, my daughter-in-law, found him after she got home from work. His father explained, "It's the worst pain you could ever feel, losing a child. He was an adult, but he was still my child."
The cannabis Brandon Danielson consumed was much stronger than anything that was available prior to 2010, when a growing number of states began to legalize recreational use. Now, of the people who reported vaping cannabis in 2023 International Cannabis Policy Study, the average oil they vaped was 71% THC. That's almost 20 times stronger than the potency of weed that was for sale illegally in the U.S. in 1995, which had an average THC content of 4, according to Denise Walker, a research professor
4
at the University of Washington.
Seems very low, 4.
So, yeah, okay. All right.
THC potency has increased over the years astronomically, Walker said. We can get much more potent strains now that we have legalized retail cannabis and instituted no limits on THC concentration. It can go as high as 99% THC. While cannabis potency has gone through the roof, so have cannabis use and recreational sales, which topped $1.2 billion in Washington state in 2024. Cannabis has now surpassed alcohol as the daily drug of choice based on usage, and the state has reaped the benefits in the form of hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes from recreational cannabis sales every year.
For years, lawmakers, researchers, and doctors have sounded the alarm about a potential public health crisis. Cannabis-induced psychosis is on the rise. Cannabis use disorder is increasing among teens and young adults, and a growing body of research shows a connection between daily cannabis use and schizophrenia. How do we go from CHS to schizophrenia?
I guess they're going to throw in everything, right? Those advocates are fighting a multi-billion-dollar cannabis industry resistant to any form of regulation, and a public largely convinced cannabis is harmless. What most people don't realize, researchers say, is that THC young people are vaping and dabbing today has little resemblance to the cannabis of decades past. True?
Bea Carolina, a research associate professor at Addictions, Drug, and Alcohol Institute of the University of Washington School of Medicine, has a saying that might best describe the relationship between cannabis most people are familiar with and what many voted to legalize, and high-potency cannabis concentrates sold at retail stores across the state. She said it's like comparing strawberries to strawberry frosted Pop-Tarts.
The plant is so processed, it is enhanced by so many manufacturing processes, extractions, additions, concentrations, Carlini said. Then you add external flavors. You suck the THC out of the plant and make a gooey material. It becomes detached from the plant.
Well, that's why you just use heat to make your concentrates. I mean, you don't have to use any other stuff, additives. Carolina chaired a working group in 2020 that documented the health effects of high-potency cannabis products such as cannabis vape pens, shatter, a form of cannabis wax, and dabs. By extracting, they talk about how they do each one of these things. The central question posed by state lawmakers and health officials to Carolina's research team is high-potency cannabis use safe for the citizens of Washington state?
The answer to that question depends on who you are and how much you use. Carlini's team concluded the high-potency cannabis may have lifelong mental health consequences, which often manifest in adolescence or early adult use. The group's report said using high-potency products daily increases the risk of developing psychotic disorders such as schizophrenia and is connected to an earlier onset of psychotic symptoms.
Yeah, the report concludes that THC content of cannabis products contributes to the adverse health effects in a dose response matter. In other words, the higher the potency, the more likely the users are to get sick from or addicted to weed. Now, the conclusion came as no surprise to Dr. Ethan Russo. I know Dr. Ethan Russo. I watched him many times speak about the benefits of cannabis. He says he's a neurologist based in Vashon Island who has been studying the medical value of cannabinoids and developing cannabis-based medicine for close to 30 years. Russo has been running his own company, Credo Science, since 2020, devoted to making cannabis safer and better.
But even Russo, whose professional life revolves around the benefits of cannabis, has been calling out the dangers of high-potency concentrators. A danger, he said, is universally applicable to any drug. From the time of the Greeks, it has been noted, the difference between a medicine and a poison is the dose, Russo said. Everything has side effects for you if you use too much. That certainly is the case with cannabis. In low doses, it is a fabulously therapeutic compound. In high doses, it renders one anxious, paranoid, even delusional. So the point is not to use too much.
By measuring the dose is a challenging task for people smoking and vaping cannabis and for researchers trying to gauge the effects of daily use. This story is really long, so we're just going to cut her down now, and we'll see we're at the top of the hour. But yeah, as far as the CHS and the sickness, I know a guy that you can't even smoke a joint now. I smoked lots of joints with him. And then he ended up in the hospital. He was sick and all that. Yeah, he was hospitalized.
And what was the cause?
CHS.
It's too high concentrations. He's
having
doing?
Yeah, he can't even use edibles.
Wow.
Because he got out of the hospital, all that stuff, and he's sort of questioning it all. And so he's, started consuming again. Fuck, he ended right back up in the hospital.
Wow.
Sick again. So I was with him one day and I said, hey, I knew he smoked. Right. So I passed him the dib and he said, oh, no. And then he explained to me what had happened. And I said, holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
I use concentrates myself. So it's a pretty interesting story. I barely smoke any at all now.
Yeah. Well, I got my vape pens. I use my vape pens inside. Got my shadow riser here, but
that's what I use the most, like shatters and diamonds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
High potency concentrates, but I don't use them to the same extent that I used when I was smoking cannabis.
Right.
So I would smoke a joint every hour of the day. Sometimes more, depending on the situation,
right.
and my pain levels and things like that. So I was smoking probably 12, 15 joints a day, maybe a little bit more sometimes.
Yeah.
And now I use 2 or 3 times a day. So I don't know which is better. They are a lot higher concentrates.
Yeah.
So I don't know in the end which is better for me. I mean, right now it seems to be working fine for my life, but I'm kind of thinking about this now too.
Well, hey, you'll know. You get any signs. If all of a sudden you start vomiting for no reason at all, you can start questioning it at that time.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we close out here?
Peace out.
All right. That's a P.A.C.E news report for today and from the Legacy420.com news desk, and for our buds at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, At-Eze.ca, and Limestone Hydroponics.com, and of course Legacy420.com. Closing, we'd like to say thanks for watching and listening, and please don't forget to educate, medicate, And whatever we do, do not incarcerate. Bye-bye.
You're listening to the P.A.C.E Radio Network here at PACERadio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at PACERadio.net.